let's try to make sense of the Giants because, I mean, it's ugly. With that loss, they're going to finish with 6 wins or fewer for the 8th time since 2016, which is the most for any of the 32 NFL teams. Joe Schoen's press conference is going to be really interesting because most GMs do their pressers on the bye week. Right now, Joe's is scheduled for next Tuesday.
Andrew, he did it today.
Yes. Oh, he did it today. My fault. I thought
Yeah.
He did it today. My apologies. Okay. Yeah, let's go. Let's talk about that.
Okay.
Because Abdul Carter, Jori, the player you mentioned, Abdul Carter, for the second time in 3 games under Mike Kafka, the interim head coach, was benched at the start of the game. Don't believe that crazy fake Twitter account about why that was going on out there before. Don't believe that. No.
Come on, Andrew, say it.
Baloney. Don't believe that. He was late again. Tardiness is an issue. Now, his Abdul Carter's pressure numbers are great. He's number 11 when it comes to pressures, but he has only a sack and a half, and a lot of the things that we heard out of Penn State about immaturity have seemingly reared their ugly head here in the NFL. Jori, give me some more Joe Schoen notes.
Yeah, well, first of all, Joe Schoen did say that he completely supports Mike Kafka, the interim head coach's handling of Abdul Carter, of his disciplinary situations. I mean, we saw a couple weeks ago against the Packers, Abdul Carter did not play the first series. Now that advanced to the entire first quarter against the Patriots, which is significant. I mean, as we mentioned, like they were down 17-0 by the time he got into the game. And so I'm not saying that he could have single-handedly changed that, but to suggest that he couldn't have influenced it somewhat, like you drafted him 3rd overall in the entire draft for a reason. And Joe Schoen was publicly both saying, look, I endorse what Mike Kafka's doing, and also I'm not going to go publicly bash my player because he's 21 years old. These guys come in at 21, 22. They've got the bright lights of New York City. They have to learn how to grow up. I just think it's worth considering based off what I understand of the Giants and other teams that have been in similar situations that there are a lot of guys who come into the league and do things like this. And, hey, I don't want to practice. I'm sore, but then they're not going to the training room. Or, hey, I meant to be in that meeting, or I didn't go to the extra film session, or whatever it is. And I think oftentimes coaches let them get away with that. And especially if there's a coach or a general manager on a hot seat, then they're like, look, you know what? Like, I can't really afford to lose this guy and lose his buy-in. I have to give him this leash. And then they feel like the next year they can't pull it back in. And so I think it's interesting that Mike Kafka, who I don't know what his chances are of getting the job next year, Joe Schoen did say in his press conference that he will get a real look. He is currently getting a real look at it, and he supports Kafka for the foreseeable future, at least till the season ends. But I do give Mike Kafka a lot of credit, and I think that league leadership will notice this, and ownership groups and other teams who might want to hire Mike Kafka in the future will be like, hey, he's not afraid to do that, even if it's somewhat unpopular. As it relates to Joe Schoen's big picture messages, it's really, look, the New York media was very hard on him. And hey, why do you get to keep your job when Brian Daboll didn't? Why do you feel like you should keep doing it when, oh, by the way, even after Brian Daboll, you're not winning? Why do you feel like you can stand on your laurels of who you drafted when a guy like Abdul Carter's not showing up to meetings? I think it's also fair, and Joe Schoen mentioned this point, that he was the head person in the personnel group when they drafted guys like Jaxson Dart, Cam Scatterbo, Malik Neighbors last year, Theo Johnson, who looks like he's really developing as a tight end. I mean, there were quite a few players, so I'm not suggesting he didn't miss on guys, but there is somewhat of a core. And when you look at why this is an attractive job to head coaching candidates, Joe Schoen's like, well, who do you think assembled the group that's attractive?
All good points. I do on the Abdul Carter thing, the missing meetings, the unprofessionalism, whatever you want to call it. That's not great, obviously, but we haven't touched on something that I think is pretty important. He has not been good as a player. He had his first sack of the entire season last night. He has 1.5 sacks.
0 yards loss.
He has 17 tackles. And please give me every Pro Football Focus stat in the world that says he's actually better than the stats. I really don't care. He has. You don't think the pressures?
I'm not fighting with you.
They do. But
the sack numbers are too low. But you don't think the pressures are a significant stat?
Yes,
No?
the pressures are that's fine.
He's number 11 in the NFL.
I'm not saying he's a zero. I'm not saying he's just, but
Okay.
the production hasn't been good either. Like, I think we can agree that fine. Pro Football Focus has a ton of pressures, and he has played better than 1.5 sacks. I'll give that, but I still think we have to say this has been a disappointing rookie season just on the field for Abdul Carter.
Yes,
if he never got in trouble, if he never got suspended, should be saying, is this it? Really? He's got 1.5 sacks. Okay. Like that's not much of an impact. So, but I do think when it comes to Schoen, I do think this Giants job is attractive in many ways. And in many ways it's not, because it hasn't won in a long time. The Giants have just become one of these franchises we think of as a good franchise, but it's not. Like they just keep losing and losing and losing and losing. And yeah, Eli Manning won some Super Bowls, and that's awesome. But that was a long time ago. Those trophies are kind of dusty by now. So can you turn around a franchise with a GM who's already in place? He's not your guy. Like you're not coming in together. We've talked about that setup many times now. That's a more ideal process. With a quarterback who has no desire to protect himself whatsoever. Like none. Like Jaxson Dart is not going to last long in this league if he keeps playing.
Reckless, actually.
I'm sorry. It's really, I can't even imagine. Like those coaches must be going crazy. They'd have to be telling him every day, like, Jaxson, just slide. Just go out of bounds. Just slide. Just go out of bounds. And then they watch him just get blasted. And all of his teammates do the fake tough guy thing and stick up. He got hit legally. Like, what are we talking about? Like, if you want to fight somebody, fight Jaxson Dart. Like, hey, get out of bounds, kid. So I just think that this Giants job is going to be touted as one of the better ones on the market. In some ways, I get it. There is some young talent, and Joe Schoen has drafted good players. But in some ways, I'm like, are we ignoring that the Giants have kind of been terrible for more than a decade now? Like, I don't know how you turn it's not going to be an easy turnaround as it's going to be sold as this offseason.
Frank, I'm so glad you mentioned the quarterback element, because I think that's so interesting as it relates to who will be the Giants head coach in 2026. I think when we look at it, first of all, Joe Schoen did say in his press conference that he thought Jaxson Dart's really big hit that he took on Monday night was unnecessary, or probably unnecessary were his words. So he did kind of say like, hey, this guy's got to pull it in a little bit. To me, what's fascinating is going into this season, we all felt like Brian Daboll and Jaxson Dart were such a good match because they're tough, they're physical, they've got the swagger, they both have kind of like they play very emotionally, coach very emotionally, and that was going to be a fit, whereas Brian Daboll with Daniel Jones, who's much more stoic, was not a fit. I actually think we read the room wrong here, and while passion is good and passion can compound, we actually need an adult in the room who's going to tell Jaxson Dart, that's great that you want to do this, but this is reckless, you're not going to be available, and we can't just have you and Cam Skadbu and all you guys who just want to play super recklessly and physically without understanding the consequences of that for your availability. We can't have you doing that. And so to me, I would think about it and I say, well, what coach would Jaxson Dart actually listen to, who could actually get into his mind and really change the way he's wired in some ways on how he plays the game? Because again, I'm not trying to say that Jaxson Dart doesn't want to play or he's not being like, none of this is malicious. This is just like a competitive guy and you can't take the competitive spirit out of it. But to me, there's a clear answer here. And I'm curious what y'all think of this. Because to me, when I say, well, who's a quarterback recently who we've seen in this league who it's a little bit hard to rein him in. Maybe he's going on a Pat McAfee show while he's playing for a New York team. Maybe he's doing other things, but there's a head coach who he says, you know what, I'm not going to go on that Pat McAfee show for it. I'm not going to do the things that I wanted to do, even though I was talented enough to do it my way. There is a coach out there who, by the way, happened to mention this week on Tuesday, and I know we'll talk about this more on the Wednesday show with ESPN Steelers reporter Brooke Byer, but Mike Tomlin, when asked about the fire Tomlin chance, started off by saying, I agree, and here's why, and then talked about not winning. So I don't think there's a 0% chance that Mike Tomlin says, hey, it's time for something new. And don't you think that Jaxson Dart would listen to Mike Tomlin?
Yes. I think that's a great
Jori,
are
we putting Mike Tomlin in New York as head coach of the Giants? Is that what you're doing?
Yes.
Do it.
Okay.
That's awesome.
I think
it's a great I think it's a great idea.
You said Aaron Rodgers. I'm thinking Mike McCarthy. He is a free agent. If they call Mike McCarthy, I guarantee you we'll take the interview. We're going Mike Tomlin.
Yes, Mike. No. Mike McCarthy's a good guy. I worked with him in Dallas. I like him. He's not the one who got Aaron Rodgers to stop going on McAfee. This is Mike Tomlin, who Aaron Rodgers went in and said, I have so much respect for the way he's doing it. And I think it's time for a change. And by the way, the number one thing that Mike Tomlin has not had in Pittsburgh since he last went to won a playoff game close to 10 years ago, went to the Super Bowl at the very beginning of his career, is a quarterback. And the Giants have that in Jaxson Dart. They just need someone who's going to be able to say, hey, I need you to play this way, and here's why. And I know how this works. I've done this before, and I have the skins on the wall for you to listen to me. And if Aaron Rodgers will listen to Mike Tomlin, I think Jaxson Dart will too.
Okay, so in this scenario, do the Giants have to give the Steelers draft capital for Mike Tomlin, who is under contract?
He is under contract, but I'm not sure that the Steelers are going to want Tomlin. I know we've talked about how they might not fire him, but I don't think there's a 0% chance that they both say, it's time for a change. We've had a great run together.
Oh, I mean,
again, we'll see. But if the Ravens win the division and the Steelers continue to look this way, as we've talked about, Aaron Rodgers was a Mike Tomlin decision and it hasn't worked. So there are multiple things that have not worked. The defense this year has not had the Mike Tomlin physicality that we have seen in recent years. Now, at some points in the season they have, but certainly not consistently. And at the end of the 2024 season, they really went on a tailspin when they lost 5 straight games. And so I just think that sometimes it's good for a fresh start. And Mike Tomlin's still an attractive coach candidate. He should be. He's a great coach. And the Giants are an attractive job. And then even Joe Schoen, it's like, okay, you can keep Joe Schoen there because ownership likes him, but Tomlin gets some degree of personnel say. So I think that that's kind of how you figure out the Joe Schoen piece, is that the same way I think Mike Vrabel has quite a say in personnel in New England. And we see people with quite a bit of say on the head coach. I mean, Kyle Shanahan has quite a bit of say 49ers. I could go on. You let Joe Schoen stay in the job, but he's not necessarily getting to supersede Mike Tomlin on certain decisions, such as Russell Wilson or Justin Fields last year.
Frank?
Love it. I mean, if that were to happen, I think the Giants would be completely invigorated right away. Then I'd look at that job a lot differently. You're getting somebody in a room who could change the culture. This isn't Joe Judge. This isn't Ben McAdoo. This isn't Brian Daboll. This is Mike Tomlin. This is a guy who has a Hall of Fame resume, as I've said many times. So I would love it. I think that he would be a perfect fit. I think he could deal with that city. I think he could. Everything about it, I would like. Everything about it. And I have gotten to the point. I've said over and over and over again, hey, Steelers fans, be careful what you wish for. You can chant fire Tomlin all you want. You might hire the next Adam Gase, right? Like, there's no guarantee you're going to get the next Bill Cowher, Chuck Noll, Mike Tomlin, right? There's no guarantee of that. But we talked about yesterday, like the Andy Reid Eagles thing just keeps ringing in my mind of, hey, Andy, we know you're a great coach. We know that. We know you're going to go on to do good things, but this just isn't working anymore. We just need to do something different. Worked out for the Eagles, worked out for the Chiefs. And I think the same thing could be true. The Steelers are in for a big rebuild coming up. I don't think they've admitted that to themselves. It's going to be hard for them to admit that to themselves. But I watch that team. I don't care that they're 6-6. There's really nothing to get excited about with that team. And I'm not talking about 2025. I'm talking about the next couple of years. Like, what is there? What do you point to and say that's why the Steelers aren't going to take a big step back? There's a big rebuild coming. And I think maybe it's just time to say, you know what, let's go get Jesse Minter to be part of our rebuild. And Mike, hey, we'll build a statue for you someday, but this just isn't working anymore.
All right, deeper dive as Jori. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, one last note I want to make on this is that when I think about whether Mike Tomlin would consider leaving, again, because this is suggesting that we do think he has a say in this decision, Mike Tomlin has played for an extremely stable franchise from an ownership standpoint, and a franchise that does give you a runway. He's not going to go take a job like Tennessee where there's just so much instability, so much changeover.
Correct.
And I'm not saying the Giants have always had coaches, and when they lose a lot, yes, they turn it over. But the Giants and the Maras are good owners. Like, I'm not saying that they're winning all the time, but I do think that people trust in their ownership to a degree. So I don't think that this is an ownership group that Mike Tomlin would want to keep away from.
Yeah, and no, that's a valid point here as well. And complicating the entire thing here is obviously Mr. Mara's health. John Mara is battling cancer right now. Joe Schoen is the general manager. There is some thought that depending on who the next head coach is, maybe Joe Schoen is not the GM next year. There are a lot of moving parts here, and it makes the Giants situation a little bit more complicated.